She empties trash cans while colonels debate impossible shots. Unnoticed, unheard, invisible. They argue about legendary marksmen who could thread bullets through keyholes at a mile, never knowing that the woman mopping their floors once dropped enemy commanders at distances that redefined warfare itself. Today, one colonel's arrogant challenge will shatter the silence she's maintained for 4 years. What happens when the ghost they overlook decides to remind the world what real precision looks like? The morning sun blazes over Fort Braxton's Advanced Marksmanship Training Center, casting long shadows across the sprawling complex that serves as America's premier sniper academy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Heat rises from the concrete in shimmering waves, distorting the distant mountains into liquid mirages. This fortress of precision shooting spans 60 acres of carefully maintained ranges, each designed to test different aspects of long-distance accuracy. The facility trains only the most elite marksmen from every branch of military service, a sacred ground where millimeter precision can mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Within this temple of accuracy, conversations flow like reverent prayers. Officers debate legendary shots taken by mythical snipers, whose names have been whispered in military circles for decades. They speak of impossible angles, environmental conditions that should have made precise shooting laughable, and distances that stretched the very limits of ballistic science. These men and women have dedicated their lives to the art of precision shooting, studying every recorded long-distance engagement like scripture, analyzing wind patterns and atmospheric conditions with the devotion of scholars examining ancient texts. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moves through this world like a shadow that nobody bothers to notice. 43 years old, her graying brown hair pulled back in a practical bun, wearing the standard-issue gray uniform of the facility's maintenance staff. Her identification badge reads, Elena Martinez, a name that carries no weight in military databases, no connection to classified operations or decorated service records. According to her employment file, she's a civilian contractor hired through Apex Facility Services, a company that specializes in maintaining high-security military installations. Her background check shows a clean record, steady employment history, and zero connection to combat operations or specialized military training. The fabrication runs deeper than surface documentation. Elena's position came through legitimate channels. Her supervisor genuinely believes she's exactly what her paperwork indicates. A reliable worker who arrives early, stays late, never complains about difficult assignments, and maintains the kind of professional invisibility that makes her perfect for sensitive facilities. The intelligence officer who orchestrated her cover identity retired 3 years ago, taking his secrets with him. His replacement inherited a thick folder of operational covers but was never briefed on which ones housed active assets still living under assumed names. Colonel Marcus Webb dominates the morning briefing room like a force of nature. 6 feet 4 inches of military bearing, his voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Silver eagles gleam on his collar, evidence of a career built on tactical brilliance and political savvy. His weathered face shows scars from 3 combat deployments, and his gray eyes hold the calculating intelligence of someone who's survived firefights through superior planning and ruthless execution. Webb commands respect not just through rank, but through demonstrated competence under the most extreme conditions imaginable. Around him, the facility's elite instructors gather like disciples absorbing wisdom from a master. These aren't ordinary shooting coaches, but legends in their own right. Master Sergeant Thompson holds the Marine Corps record for confirmed kills in urban environments. Staff Sergeant Kim pioneered counter-sniper techniques that saved hundreds of lives in Iraq. Lieutenant Colonel Davis developed windage calculations that are now standard curriculum at every sniper school in NATO. Each instructor carries decades of experience, thousands of rounds fired in anger, and hard-won knowledge purchased with blood and sleepless nights. The debate this morning centers on a theoretical scenario that has consumed military strategists for months. Intelligence reports suggest enemy forces have developed new defensive positions that place their command structures at previously impossible distances from any conceivable sniper position. The mathematics seem insurmountable. Environmental factors including altitude, wind shear, atmospheric pressure, and temperature gradients create a shooting problem that exists at the very edge of theoretical possibility. Traditional doctrine suggests that such targets simply cannot be engaged with current equipment and training methods. Webb spreads detailed topographical maps across the conference table, his thick fingers tracing elevation lines and measuring distances with practiced precision. The target zone sits atop a mountain plateau, surrounded by terrain that prevents close approach. The nearest feasible shooting position lies exactly 2,600 meters away, a distance that would challenge even legendary marksmen under perfect conditions. But the environmental factors make perfection impossible. Winds that shift unpredictably between mountain peaks, air density that varies with altitude, and a target zone protected by natural barriers that seem designed by nature to prevent exactly this type of engagement. Gentlemen, Webb's voice cuts through the morning air like a blade through silk. We're looking at a shot that redefines what we consider possible in precision marksmanship. He taps the map with his index finger, marking the theoretical shooting position with the same precision he once used to mark enemy positions for artillery strikes. 2,600 meters, through mountain winds that can shift 40 degrees in seconds, at a target zone roughly the size of a dinner plate. The numbers hang in the air like a mathematical challenge to everything these instructors believe about the limits of human capability. Master Sergeant Thompson leans forward, studying the topographical data with the intensity of someone calculating life and death scenarios. His experience in urban warfare has taught him that every shot carries consequences far beyond the immediate target. Sir, at that distance, with those environmental factors, we're talking about a degree of precision that borders on supernatural. His weathered hands trace wind patterns on the map, decades of experience translating theoretical data into practical shooting problems. The bullet drop alone would require elevation adjustments that push our equipment to its absolute limits. Staff Sergeant Kim nods in agreement, her analytical mind processing the variables with computer-like precision. She spent years developing techniques for shots that others considered impossible. But this scenario challenges even her innovative approaches. The atmospheric conditions create a shooting corridor that exists for maybe 30 seconds out of every hour. She calculates aloud, her voice carrying the weight of someone who's staked her reputation on mathematical precision. And that's assuming optimal weather patterns that may not exist in the actual operational environment. Lieutenant Colonel Davis pulls out his advanced ballistics calculator, fingers dancing across keys with the practiced efficiency of someone who's solved countless shooting problems under combat pressure. I'm running the numbers, and even with perfect environmental readings, the margin of error exceeds the target zone by a factor of 3. He looks up from the device, his expression grave with professional assessment. We're asking for a miracle disguised as marksmanship. Webb listens to each analysis with the patience of a commander who values input from his subordinates, but his expression reveals a man unconvinced by technical limitations. He's built his career by achieving objectives that others deemed impossible, and this theoretical scenario feels like just another problem waiting for the right solution. I understand the mathematics, but consider the strategic implications, he responds, his voice carrying the weight of someone who's made decisions that sent men to die and brought others home safely. This isn't an academic exercise. Intelligence suggests we may face exactly this scenario within the next 6 months. The strategic context transforms the discussion from theoretical debate to urgent operational planning. Recent satellite intelligence has identified enemy command positions that match the defensive profile they're analyzing. These aren't hypothetical targets, but actual objectives that may require engagement in the near future. The luxury of dismissing impossible shots disappears when those shots become mission requirements, with American lives hanging in the balance. Elena continues her cleaning routine around the edges of the briefing room, emptying trash receptacles and wiping down surfaces with the mechanical efficiency of someone who's performed these tasks thousands of times. Her movements create no sound that might interrupt the important discussions taking place at the center of the room. To the officers debating precision shooting, she exists in a different dimension entirely, as invisible as the air conditioning that keeps the room comfortable, or the lighting that illuminates their maps and calculations. But Elena's breathing tells a different story to anyone trained to recognize the signs. Her respiratory rhythm remains perfectly steady despite the conversation's intensity, a response pattern that suggests familiarity with high-stress tactical discussions rather than the nervousness most civilians would display around classified military planning. Her positioning within the room maintains clear sightlines to all exits while keeping potential threats in her peripheral vision, movement patterns that speak of training no janitor should possess. Her cleaning efficiency masks careful observation of the topographical data spread across the conference table. Professional instincts, buried under 4 years of deliberate anonymity, analyze wind patterns and elevation data with automatic precision. Her mind calculates trajectory solutions and environmental compensations with the unconscious competence of someone who's solved similar problems under conditions where failure meant death. But these calculations remain internal, hidden behind the facade of a maintenance worker focused on menial tasks. Webb's frustration grows visible as the technical discussion continues to emphasize limitations rather than solutions. He spent his career finding ways to accomplish missions that seemed impossible, and this theoretical scenario feels like a direct challenge to his reputation as a problem solver. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "I'm not interested in why it can't be done," he declares, his voice carrying the edge that subordinates learn to recognize as dangerous territory. "I need solutions, not excuses." The assembled instructors exchange glances that communicate shared concern about their commander's expectations. These are professionals who've spent careers pushing the boundaries of what's possible in precision shooting, but they also understand the mathematical realities that govern ballistic science. Physics doesn't negotiate with determination, no matter how strong the motivation or how dire the strategic necessity. Master Sergeant Thompson attempts to bridge the gap between command expectations and technical reality. "Sir, with respect, we can train for this scenario and develop specialized techniques, but success would require environmental conditions that we can't control or predict." His tone carries the careful diplomacy of someone delivering unwelcome news to a superior who doesn't want to hear limitations. Webb's response reveals the depth of his frustration with technical obstacles. "Thompson, I've seen shooters accomplish things that defied every mathematical model we possessed. Sometimes precision comes down to factors that can't be calculated or predicted." He stands, using his imposing height to emphasize his authority over the discussion. "What we need isn't better mathematics. We need better shooters." The comment hangs in the air like a challenge to everything the instructors believe about the relationship between skill and physics. Elena's hands tighten almost imperceptibly around her cleaning supplies, muscle memory responding to a debate that strikes closer to her hidden experience than anyone in the room could imagine. Her breathing shifts slightly, not with nervousness but with the controlled response of someone forcing down professional instincts that want to engage with tactical problems. Staff Sergeant Kim ventures a diplomatic contradiction to her commanding officer's assessment. "Sir, we've tested our best marksmen against similar scenarios in controlled environments. The human element can compensate for some variables, but at these distances, environmental factors simply overwhelm individual skill levels." Her voice carries the weight of someone who's witnessed the limits of human capability under extreme conditions. Webb turns to face Kim directly, his gray eyes holding the intensity of someone who refuses to accept defeat in any form. "Kim, are you telling me that no human being could make this shot under any circumstances?" The question carries implications beyond the immediate tactical discussion, touching on fundamental beliefs about the relationship between determination and achievement. The challenge forces Kim to consider possibilities that extend beyond conventional training and doctrine. She's spent years working with the military's most elite marksmen, witnessed shots that seemed impossible until they happened, and learned to respect the difference between theoretical limits and practical achievement. "Sir, I'm saying that if such a person existed, they would represent capabilities that exceed our current understanding of precision shooting." Elena's internal war intensifies as the conversation moves toward territory that directly intersects with her buried past. Professional knowledge, suppressed for years beneath civilian anonymity, screams against the limitations being discussed by people who've never faced the specific challenges she's survived. Her hands tremble slightly as she reaches for cleaning supplies, not from fear but from the effort required to maintain her cover while listening to tactical debates that she could resolve with personal experience. Lieutenant Colonel Davis offers a compromise position that acknowledges both command expectations and technical realities. "Perhaps we should focus on identifying and training marksmen who show exceptional potential for extreme distance shooting. Even if this specific scenario proves impossible, the training would enhance our overall capabilities." His suggestion attempts to channel Webb's determination into productive directions, while avoiding direct confrontation with physical laws. Webb considers the proposal with the calculating assessment of someone evaluating tactical options under pressure. The political realities of military planning require him to show progress on seemingly impossible objectives while managing the expectations of superiors who may not understand technical limitations. Davis, that's exactly the kind of thinking I want to see. We identify the best candidates and push them beyond conventional limits. The discussion shifts toward practical implementation of enhanced training programs, but Elena's attention focuses on details that the officers haven't considered. The topographical data they're analyzing contains environmental factors that she recognizes from personal experience, shooting conditions that she's actually encountered under operational circumstances. Her buried expertise processes their theoretical scenario with the practical knowledge of someone who's faced similar challenges and found solutions that exist outside conventional doctrine. Master Sergeant Thompson pulls out detailed ballistics charts, spreading them across the table alongside the topographical maps. If we're going to attempt training for this scenario, we need to understand exactly what we're asking marksmen to achieve. His charts show trajectory calculations, wind drift patterns, and environmental compensation factors that paint a picture of mathematical complexity that would challenge even computer-assisted firing solutions. The visual data representation triggers stronger responses in Elena's suppressed muscle memory. Her eyes track the ballistic curves with automatic recognition, analyzing data patterns that match scenarios from her hidden past. The cleaning cloth in her hands moves with unconscious precision, her movements becoming more controlled as buried training protocols activate despite her conscious efforts to maintain civilian anonymity. Webb studies the ballistics charts with the intensity of someone trying to find weakness in enemy defenses. These calculations assume standard ammunition and conventional shooting techniques, he observes, his finger tracing trajectory curves that represent thousands of hours of mathematical modeling. What if we modified our approach entirely? Staff Sergeant Kim recognizes the direction of Webb's thinking and feels compelled to offer cautionary perspective. Sir, any modifications significant enough to change these basic ballistics would require equipment and techniques that exist outside established doctrine. We'd essentially be conducting experimental shooting with unproven methods. The mention of experimental techniques and unproven methods resonates in Elena's memory like echoes from a different lifetime. Her breathing deepens as she fights against recollections of missions that required exactly the kind of innovative thinking Webb is describing. Operations where conventional doctrine proved inadequate and success depended on capabilities that existed at the intersection of skill, intuition, and technologies that never appeared in training manuals. Webb's response reveals his willingness to explore unconventional solutions. Kim, every advance in precision shooting began as an experimental technique that someone was brave enough to attempt under operational conditions. His voice carries the conviction of someone who's witnessed the evolution of military capabilities through individual innovation and calculated risk-taking. Elena positions herself near the conference room's communication equipment, ostensibly to clean dust from sensitive electronics, but actually to monitor incoming tactical updates that might relate to the scenario under discussion. Her movements around the high-tech equipment display familiarity with military communication systems that extends far beyond basic maintenance requirements. She adjusts controls with unconscious precision, her hands remembering operational procedures that civilian contractors should never have learned. Lieutenant Colonel Davis raises a practical concern that brings the discussion back to immediate realities. Sir, even if we develop these enhanced techniques, training marksmen to operational proficiency would require months of specialized instruction. The timeline for potential deployment may not accommodate that level of preparation. The timeline pressure adds urgency to Webb's strategic thinking. Military planning operates under constraints that don't accommodate lengthy training cycles when operational requirements demand immediate capabilities. Davis, that's why we need to identify candidates who already possess exceptional baseline skills. We can't create precision shooters from scratch, but we can enhance existing capabilities. Elena's suppressed expertise automatically evaluates the training timeline discussion from the perspective of someone who's actually developed the capabilities they're discussing. Her experience suggests that the kind of precision shooting Webb envisions requires not just technical training but psychological conditioning that takes years to develop. The intersection of physical skill and mental discipline necessary for extreme distance precision exists in very few individuals, most of whom have learned their capabilities through operational necessity rather than classroom instruction. Master Sergeant Thompson introduces another practical consideration that complicates Webb's strategic planning. Sir, Candidates with the baseline skills you're describing are already deployed in critical roles. Pulling elite marksmen for experimental training could compromise ongoing operational capabilities. The resource allocation dilemma reflects broader challenges in military planning where competing priorities demand the same limited human assets. Webb's desire for enhanced precision shooting capabilities must be balanced against existing commitments that depend on the military's most skilled marksmen. Thompson, exceptional capabilities require exceptional measures. We identify the right candidates and make the necessary adjustments to accommodate their training. Elena's position near the communications equipment allows her to overhear fragmentary reports from various training exercises taking place across the facility. Radio chatter mentions wind conditions, range distances, and shooter performance metrics that paint a picture of the facility's current operational tempo. Her unconscious processing of this information reveals familiarity with tactical communications protocols that civilian maintenance staff should never understand. Webb makes a decision that crystallizes his commitment to pursuing the seemingly impossible shooting scenario. Gentlemen, I want recommendations from marksmen who might possess the baseline capabilities we're discussing. We'll develop a specialized training program and see exactly what human skill can accomplish under optimal conditions. The directive transforms theoretical discussion into operational planning, requiring each instructor to evaluate their knowledge of elite marksmen who might serve as candidates for experimental training. Elena's buried memory automatically catalogs individuals she's worked with during her hidden past, marksmen whose capabilities might surprise the officers currently debating theoretical limits. Staff Sergeant Kim accepts the challenge while maintaining realistic expectations about probable outcomes. Sir, I'll review performance records and identify candidates who show exceptional potential for extreme distance shooting. But I want to emphasize that success isn't guaranteed even with our best marksmen. Webb acknowledges Kim's caution while maintaining his determination to push beyond conventional limitations. Kim, I'm not asking for guarantees. I'm asking for our best effort to achieve something that others consider impossible. His response reflects the mindset that has driven military innovation throughout history, the willingness to attempt objectives that seem beyond reach because the strategic value justifies the risk. Elena completes her cleaning routine in the briefing room as the formal discussion concludes, but her mind continues processing the tactical scenario with buried expertise that offers solutions the officers haven't considered. Her hidden knowledge encompasses shooting techniques and environmental compensation methods that could address many of the challenges they've identified, but sharing that knowledge would shatter the anonymity she's maintained for 4 years. The officers begin filing out of the briefing room, each carrying assignments that will shape the facility's training evolution over coming weeks. Elena remains behind, ostensibly to complete final cleaning tasks but actually to process the full implications of the morning's discussion. Her civilian cover provides perfect camouflage for the internal war between professional instincts and personal security that now threatens to tear apart the careful balance she's maintained. Webb pauses at the briefing room door, turning back to survey the maps and charts that represent his latest command challenge. His eyes sweep across the room without registering Elena's presence, but something in the morning's discussion has triggered instincts that made him a successful combat commander. Sometimes the answers we need are hiding in plain sight, he murmurs to himself, unaware that those words describe the situation more accurately than he could imagine. Elena's hands shake as she gathers cleaning supplies, muscle memory fighting against conscious control as Webb's words echo in her memory. The tactical scenario they've been discussing matches operational parameters she's actually encountered, shooting challenges she's solved under conditions that would have defeated lesser marksmen. But revealing that knowledge would destroy the protective anonymity that keeps her alive and her family safe from enemies who believe she died in a Syrian desert 4 years ago. The morning sun climbs higher over Fort Braxton, casting shorter shadows across the facility where America's most elite marksmen train for missions that will test the limits of human capability. Elena Martinez, according to her identification badge, continues her invisible movement through a world of precision shooting, where her buried expertise could revolutionize everything they think they know about what's possible. But ghosts who choose to remain hidden carry their secrets to whatever grave they finally claim, and some victories come at costs that no rational person would choose to pay. The stage is set for a collision between hidden truth and visible authority, between suppressed capability and demonstrated need. Webb's search for marksmen who can achieve the impossible will bring him closer to the answer than he realizes, while Elena's determination to remain anonymous faces its greatest test yet. Some secrets are too dangerous to keep, and some capabilities too valuable to waste. But the choice between revelation and concealment will soon be taken out of her hands entirely. 3 days later, Elena's carefully maintained routine faces its first serious disruption. She arrives at the facility before dawn as always, but today the parking area buzzes with unusual activity. Military vehicles cluster around the main administrative building, their positioning suggesting high-level visits that demand enhanced security protocols. Elena recognizes the signs of VIP arrivals from her buried experience with classified operations, but forces herself to maintain the disinterested demeanor of a civilian worker who wouldn't understand the significance of such preparations. Inside the facility, tension crackles through corridors that normally maintain professional calm. Officers move with the heightened alertness that accompanies important inspections, their conversations conducted in lowered voices that suggest sensitive discussions taking place beyond Elena's supposed comprehension. She navigates this transformed environment with practiced invisibility, pushing her cleaning cart through hallways where colonels debate operational readiness and generals evaluate training effectiveness. The morning briefing room has been converted into a command center where Webb coordinates with visiting officials whose presence indicates strategic importance far beyond routine facility operations. Elena glimpses fragments of conversation as she performs maintenance tasks in adjacent areas, catching references to accelerated timelines and operational requirements that transform theoretical shooting scenarios into urgent capability gaps requiring immediate solutions. General Patricia Anderson commands attention in any room she enters, and today her presence dominates the converted command center like a force of nature demanding absolute focus. 4 stars gleam on her collar, evidence of a career that has navigated the highest levels of military leadership while maintaining operational credibility earned through combat command. Her silver hair frames a face marked by decision scars, and her blue eyes hold the calculating intelligence of someone who's orchestrated complex operations where failure meant strategic disaster. Anderson's reputation precedes her arrival at Fort Braxton. She built her early career as an intelligence officer who specialized in unconventional warfare, developing operational methods that achieved objectives others considered impossible. Her rise through command ranks came through demonstrated competence under extreme conditions, leading joint operations that required coordination between multiple agencies and allied forces. The general's presence at a marksmanship training facility suggests strategic priorities that extend far beyond routine capability development. Webb's briefing for General Anderson covers the theoretical shooting scenario that has consumed his planning efforts for the past week. He spreads updated intelligence reports across the command table, his presentation highlighting enemy defensive positions that match the mathematical challenges his instructors have been analyzing. The intelligence data transforms theoretical problems into operational necessities, with timelines that don't accommodate lengthy training cycles or experimental development periods. General, our analysis indicates enemy command structures positioned at distances that challenge conventional precision shooting doctrine, Webb reports, his voice carrying the measured authority of someone delivering critical intelligence assessments. The nearest feasible shooting positions require engagement at ranges approaching 3,000 meters, through environmental conditions that multiply complexity exponentially. Anderson studies the intelligence materials with the focused attention of someone evaluating strategic options under pressure. Her experience with unconventional operations has taught her to look for solutions that exist outside traditional doctrine, capabilities that develop through operational necessity rather than classroom instruction. Webb, what capabilities do we currently possess for engaging targets at these extended ranges? Webb's response reveals the gap between operational requirements and existing capabilities. Ma'am, our most skilled marksmen can achieve consistent accuracy at distances up to 1,800 meters under optimal conditions. Beyond that range, environmental factors and equipment limitations create success probabilities that fall below acceptable mission parameters. The capability gap represents exactly the kind of strategic challenge that has defined Anderson's career. Problems where conventional solutions prove inadequate and success requires innovative approaches that push beyond established limitations. What about non-conventional methods? Special ammunition, modified equipment, enhanced training protocols that might extend our operational envelope? Elena continues her maintenance routine in the corridor outside the command center, but her suppressed expertise automatically processes the conversation fragments that drift through the partially open door. The operational parameters being discussed match scenarios from her hidden past, shooting challenges that required exactly the kind of innovative thinking Anderson is suggesting. Her hands grip cleaning supplies with unconscious tension as buried memories clash with her determination to remain anonymous. Webb acknowledges the potential for unconventional approaches, while emphasizing the practical constraints that limit immediate implementation. General, we've explored various enhancement options, but developing reliable techniques would require extensive testing and specialized training that exceeds our current timeline parameters. Anderson's strategic thinking moves beyond immediate constraints toward longer-term capability development that could address similar challenges in future operations. Webb, I'm authorizing expanded research into extreme distance precision shooting. Find me marksmen who show exceptional potential, and develop training programs that push beyond conventional limitations. The authorization transforms Webb's theoretical planning into operational directive, providing resources and authority necessary to pursue capabilities that seemed impossible just days earlier. Elena's breathing shifts as she processes the implications of enhanced training programs that might identify capabilities she's worked years to conceal. Her position outside the command center becomes increasingly uncomfortable as the conversation moves toward territory that threatens her carefully maintained anonymity. General Anderson introduces additional context that elevates the strategic importance of enhanced precision shooting capabilities. Webb, intelligence suggests multiple operational theaters where similar challenges may emerge over the next 12 months. This isn't just about one theoretical scenario, but about developing capabilities that could prove critical across various strategic contexts. The expanded scope transforms Elena's assessment of the situation from isolated planning exercise to systematic capability development that could expose her hidden expertise through multiple channels. Her experience with military planning recognizes the pattern of accelerated development cycles that leave no stone unturned in the search for operational solutions. The net is tightening around her anonymity with each strategic decision being made behind the command center door. Webb's response demonstrates his understanding of the broader implications beyond immediate operational requirements. General, expanding our search for exceptional marksmen will require cooperation from multiple commands and access to personnel records that may reveal candidates currently assigned to other critical missions. Anderson's authorization provides the bureaucratic authority necessary to overcome institutional resistance to personnel transfers and record access. Webb, you have my full support for identifying and accessing any personnel who might contribute to this capability development. Strategic priorities justify temporary disruption of existing assignments. Elena recognizes the systematic approach taking shape as a direct threat to her continued anonymity. Military databases contain fragments of her real identity buried under multiple layers of classification, but determined investigation with sufficient authority could piece together connections that lead back to her current location. Her cleaning routine becomes mechanical, as her mind calculates the probability of discovery through various investigative pathways. The command center discussion shifts toward immediate implementation of expanded marksman identification programs. Webb outlines plans for reviewing performance records from multiple facilities, conducting interviews with training personnel who might know of exceptional candidates, and establishing criteria for identifying individuals who possess baseline capabilities suitable for advanced development. Anderson emphasizes the urgency underlying these expanded efforts, while acknowledging the complexity of the task Webb faces. Webb, we need results, but we also need to avoid compromising existing operational capabilities. Find me marksmen who can achieve what others consider impossible, but don't break what's already working. Elena's position outside the command center provides perfect auditory access to planning that could destroy her protective anonymity, but leaving the area would require abandoning maintenance tasks that provide legitimate reason for her presence. She finds herself trapped between competing risks, forced to listen to discussions that threaten her security while maintaining the civilian routine that has protected her for 4 years. Webb accepts Anderson's challenge while privately questioning whether such exceptional marksmen actually exist within current military ranks. General, I'll implement comprehensive screening procedures immediately. If these capabilities exist within our personnel, we'll identify and develop them. The confidence underlying Webb's commitment reveals his fundamental belief that determination can overcome any obstacle, including the mathematical limitations that have frustrated his planning efforts. Elena's suppressed expertise recognizes the flawed assumption behind his optimism, understanding that the capabilities he seeks develop through operational necessity rather than training programs. forged in conditions that most marksmen never survive. Anderson prepares to conclude the planning session with directives that will reshape Fort Braxton's training mission over coming months. Webb, I want weekly progress reports on marksman identification and training program development. This capability gap represents a strategic vulnerability that we cannot afford to accept. Elena begins moving away from the command center as the meeting approaches its conclusion, but fragments of final conversation follow her down the corridor. References to expanded authority, accelerated timelines, and comprehensive personnel reviews create a picture of systematic investigation that could expose her hidden identity through multiple pathways she hasn't anticipated. The facility's training ranges resume normal operations as Elena continues her maintenance routine, but the morning's revelations have fundamentally altered her assessment of the risks she faces. Webb's enhanced authority and expanded mission will inevitably bring him closer to discovering capabilities that exist within his own facility, hidden behind the civilian anonymity that has protected her identity for 4 years. Elena's afternoon cleaning assignment takes her into the facility's main training range, where elite marksmen conduct advanced shooting exercises under Webb's direct supervision. She observes from the periphery as snipers engage targets at distances that represent the current limits of conventional precision shooting, their performance providing baseline data for the enhanced capabilities Webb hopes to develop. The range atmosphere carries the focused intensity of professionals pushing against established limitations. Each shot represents mathematical precision translated into kinetic energy, environmental calculations transformed into trigger pressure applied with surgical accuracy. Elena's suppressed expertise automatically evaluates each marksman's technique, identifying strengths and weaknesses that could be addressed through specialized training methods she learned during her operational career. Master Sergeant Thompson directs shooting exercises with the practiced authority of someone who's spent decades developing precision shooting skills in others. His instructions cover environmental compensation techniques, breathing control methods, and equipment adjustments that represent current doctrine for extreme distance shooting. Elena recognizes the limitations in his approach, understanding that conventional training methods reach their maximum effectiveness at distances well below the ranges Webb hopes to achieve. Staff Sergeant Kim monitors electronic scoring systems that provide detailed analysis of each shot's accuracy, measuring group sizes and consistency patterns that reveal individual marksmen's capabilities under controlled conditions. Her data collection represents the scientific approach to marksmanship development, reducing human performance to mathematical variables that can be optimized through systematic training methods. Elena positions herself near the range control tower, ostensibly to clean windows and equipment, but actually to observe the shooting exercises with professional interest that threatens to compromise her civilian cover. Her eyes track bullet trajectories with automatic recognition, analyzing wind compensation and elevation adjustments that reveal each marksman's understanding of ballistic science. Lieutenant Colonel Davis operates advanced ballistic computers that calculate environmental factors affecting each shot, providing marksmen with data that should enable precision shooting at extended ranges. His technology represents the current state of military precision shooting science, mathematical modeling that translates environmental conditions into firing solutions with theoretical accuracy that often exceeds human capability to implement. The technology demonstrates both the potential and limitations of computer-assisted precision shooting. Elena's experience encompasses situations where electronic systems failed under operational conditions, requiring marksmen to achieve precision through intuitive understanding of ballistic principles that no computer could calculate. Her hidden expertise includes techniques for environmental reading that exist outside mathematical models, human intuition trained through thousands of rounds fired under combat conditions. Webb observes the training exercises with visible frustration as marksmen struggle to achieve consistent accuracy at ranges approaching 2,000 meters. Environmental factors that seemed manageable in theoretical calculations prove overwhelming in practical application, wind shifts and atmospheric variations that defeat even the most sophisticated computer modeling. The performance gap between theoretical possibility and practical achievement illustrates the challenge Webb faces in developing capabilities that Anderson has demanded. Elena recognizes the fundamental limitation in their approach, understanding that extreme distance precision shooting requires not just technical training but operational experience that develops intuitive understanding of environmental factors that can't be reduced to mathematical formulas. A young marksman named Private Jackson demonstrates exceptional potential during the afternoon exercises, achieving shot groups that exceed expectations for someone with his limited experience. Webb notices the performance and begins evaluating Jackson as a possible candidate for enhanced training, unaware that the private's technique contains flaws that would prevent success at the extreme ranges being contemplated. Elena observes Jackson's shooting position with professional assessment that identifies the subtle problems in his technique. His breathing pattern creates microscopic movement that affects long-range accuracy. His trigger control lacks the consistent pressure necessary for extreme precision, and his environmental reading skills remain underdeveloped despite his natural talent. With proper instruction, Jackson could become an exceptional marksman, but developing the capabilities Webb envisions would require training methods that exist outside conventional doctrine. Master Sergeant Thompson approaches Jackson after the shooting exercise, offering corrections that represent current best practices for precision shooting instruction. Elena recognizes the value in Thompson's guidance, while understanding its limitations for the extreme distance shooting that Webb hopes to achieve. Conventional training methods reach their maximum effectiveness at ranges well below the 3,000-meter engagements that strategic requirements demand. Webb's interaction with Jackson reveals his growing frustration with the gap between operational requirements and available capabilities. Private, your natural talent is obvious, but we need to develop techniques that push beyond conventional limitations, he explains, his voice carrying the urgency of someone facing impossible deadlines. Jackson's response demonstrates the eagerness of a young soldier to exceed expectations while lacking the experience necessary to understand what Webb is actually requesting. "Sir, I'll do whatever training is necessary to meet mission requirements," he volunteers, unaware that the capabilities under discussion exist at the intersection of skill and operational experience that most marksmen never survive long enough to develop. Elena continues her maintenance routine while observing the interaction between Webb and Jackson, her suppressed expertise recognizing the fundamental misconception underlying their conversation. Extreme distance precision shooting develops through operational necessity rather than classroom instruction, capabilities that emerge from survival requirements rather than training exercises conducted under controlled conditions. The afternoon training session concludes with marksmen achieving results that represent current doctrine's maximum effectiveness, performance levels that fall significantly short of the strategic requirements Anderson has outlined. Webb's frustration becomes visible as he reviews shooting data that confirms the capability gap his planning efforts must somehow bridge. Elena completes her range maintenance tasks as daylight fades over Fort Braxton, but her mind continues processing the training observations that have reinforced her understanding of the challenge Webb faces. The capabilities he seeks exist within very few individuals, most of whom developed their skills through operational circumstances that civilian training programs cannot replicate. Evening brings Elena back to her modest apartment off base, where she maintains the civilian lifestyle that supports her protective anonymity. Her living space contains no evidence of her hidden military background, no photographs or mementos that might connect her to the operational career she's worked 4 years to erase. But tonight, the day's observations have triggered memories that threaten to break through the psychological barrier she's constructed around her past. Elena's reflection on the training exercises reveals the depth of knowledge she possesses regarding extreme distance precision shooting, expertise that could revolutionize Fort Braxton's capability development if she chose to reveal it. Her understanding encompasses environmental reading techniques that exist outside mathematical models, intuitive methods for ballistic compensation that develop through operational experience rather than classroom instruction. The strategic requirements Anderson has outlined match operational scenarios from Elena's hidden past, shooting challenges that required exactly the kind of innovative thinking Webb is attempting to develop through conventional training methods. Her experience includes successful engagements at ranges that exceed the theoretical limits currently frustrating Fort Braxton's most skilled marksmen. Elena's internal war intensifies as she considers the possibility of sharing her expertise while maintaining protective anonymity. The mathematical challenges that seem insurmountable to Webb's instructors represent problems she's actually solved under operational conditions, but revealing that knowledge would initiate investigation that could expose her true identity and compromise the security that keeps her family safe. The evening news carries reports of international tensions that provide context for Anderson's urgency regarding enhanced precision shooting capabilities. Elena recognizes the strategic patterns underlying current events, understanding that the capability gaps Anderson has identified represent more than theoretical concerns, but immediate operational requirements that could determine mission success in multiple theaters. Elena's assessment of the situation reveals competing obligations that defy simple resolution. Her hidden expertise could provide solutions that save American lives in future operations, but revealing that knowledge would expose her to enemies who believe she died in a Syrian desert 4 years ago. The choice between personal security and professional duty represents exactly the kind of moral complexity that has defined her adult life. Sleep comes fitfully as Elena processes the day's revelations and their implications for her continued anonymity. Webb's enhanced authority and systematic approach to capability development will inevitably bring him closer to discovering the answers he seeks, answers that exist within his own facility, disguised as a maintenance worker who empties trash cans and cleans windows while possessing knowledge that could revolutionize military precision shooting. The collision between hidden expertise and demonstrated need approaches with mathematical inevitability. Elena's determination to remain anonymous faces its greatest challenge yet, while Webb's search for exceptional marksmen carries him closer to capabilities that exceed his highest expectations. Some secrets prove too valuable to remain buried, and some capabilities too critical to waste, but the price of revelation may exceed what any rational person would choose to pay. Tomorrow brings new challenges, as Webb implements Anderson's directives for expanded marksman identification, beginning systematic review of personnel records that could expose Elena's hidden identity through investigative pathways she hasn't fully anticipated. The protective anonymity that has shielded her for 4 years faces systematic assault from the very authority structure she once served with distinction. The confrontation arrives without warning on a Thursday morning when Webb's frustration finally boils over. Elena is replacing worn target stands at the 2,000-meter range when Webb storms onto the firing line, his face flushed with the kind of anger that comes from weeks of failed progress. Behind him trail his senior instructors, their expressions carrying the weariness of professionals who've exhausted conventional solutions to an impossible problem. Webb's voice cuts through the morning air like shattered glass. 2 weeks of intensive screening and we still don't have a single marksman who can consistently hit targets beyond 2,000 meters. His boots crunch against spent brass casings as he paces the firing line, each step punctuated by mounting frustration. General Anderson expects results, and all I have to show her are excuses about mathematical impossibilities. Elena keeps her head down, continuing to install fresh target frames with mechanical precision, while Webb's tirade builds momentum. To him, she represents everything wrong with civilian contractors cluttering up military installations. Dead weight that serves no purpose beyond draining resources from critical operations. His eyes narrow as he watches her methodical work, irritation crystallizing into personal focus. Master Sergeant Thompson attempts to deflect Webb's anger toward productive channels. "Sir, perhaps we should consider expanding our search parameters to include personnel from other installations. Our local talent pool might not contain the exceptional capabilities we're seeking." Webb dismisses the suggestion with a gesture that speaks volumes about his deteriorating patience. "Thompson, I've got authorization to requisition any marksman in the entire military. The problem isn't access to personnel. The problem is that what we're asking for might not exist in any human being currently wearing a uniform." Staff Sergeant Kim ventures a different approach that acknowledges the technical limitations they've encountered. "Colonel, maybe we should focus on developing new training methodologies that could gradually extend our operational range. Even improving our maximum effective distance by 300 meters would represent significant progress." Webb's response reveals the depth of his frustration with incremental solutions to strategic problems. "Kim, 300 meters doesn't solve anything. We need someone who can thread a needle at 3,000 meters through mountain winds that would challenge a computer to calculate. We need a miracle disguised as marksmanship." Elena's hands tighten around the target frame she's installing, muscle memory responding to Webb's description of shooting challenges that mirrors scenarios from her buried past. The mathematical precision he's describing represents problems she's actually solved under operational conditions, but acknowledging that knowledge would shatter the anonymity that keeps her alive. Lieutenant Colonel Davis offers statistical analysis that reinforces the magnitude of Webb's challenge. "Sir, based on our performance data, achieving consistent accuracy at 3,000 meters would require capabilities that exist roughly 6 standard deviations beyond current elite marksman performance. We're looking for someone who represents perhaps 1 in a million probability." Webb turns to survey the empty firing range, morning shadows creating pools of darkness between shooting positions. 1 in a million, he repeats, his voice carrying bitter acceptance of mathematical reality. And we're supposed to find this statistical impossibility, hiding somewhere in military personnel files. Elena positions herself behind the target frame she's installing, using the metal structure to partially conceal her presence, while Webb's attention focuses on the firing line. Her breathing remains controlled despite the conversation's proximity to capabilities she possesses, training responses that prevent civilian anxiety from betraying military experience. The breaking point approaches as Webb's leadership frustration seeks a target for blame. His gaze sweeps across the range, taking inventory of everything that represents obstacles to his mission's success. Training equipment that can't provide adequate solutions, personnel limitations that prevent breakthrough performance, and civilian contractors who clutter the landscape with irrelevant presence. Webb's attention fixes on Elena with the kind of focus that transforms general irritation into personal confrontation. "You there," he calls out, his voice carrying the edge of authority accustomed to instant obedience. "Maintenance worker. How long have you been listening to classified discussions about operational capabilities?" Elena's response comes carefully measured, designed to deflect attention rather than engage with Webb's building antagonism. "Sir, I'm just here to replace damaged equipment. I don't pay attention to conversations that don't concern my work." Webb approaches Elena's position with the deliberate stride of someone seeking confrontation as outlet for broader frustrations. "Everything that happens on this range concerns military readiness. Civilian contractors wandering around during sensitive discussions represent security vulnerabilities that compromise operational effectiveness." The accusation carries implications beyond immediate security concerns, suggesting that Elena's presence somehow contributes to the training failures that have frustrated Webb's planning efforts. Her continued focus on target installation while he speaks feeds his irritation with civilians who don't demonstrate proper respect for military authority. Master Sergeant Thompson recognizes the dangerous direction of Webb's mood and attempts to redirect his attention. "Sir, perhaps we should return to the command center and review personnel files from additional installations. There might be candidates we haven't considered." Webb ignores Thompson's intervention, his focus remaining locked on Elena as representation of everything that impedes his mission's success. "Thompson, I'm tired of looking at files that describe mediocre performance disguised as excellence. What I need is standing right here in front of us, and we're too blind to recognize it." Elena's internal alarm systems activate as Webb's words approach territory that threatens her protective anonymity. His suggestion that exceptional capabilities might exist within the facility creates investigative pressure that could expose her hidden identity through channels she hasn't anticipated. Webb's voice rises as his frustration finds expression through confrontation with a target that can't defend itself effectively. "You know what the real problem is? We're so focused on following procedures and respecting protocol that we miss obvious solutions. Sometimes the answer is hiding in plain sight." The irony of Webb's statement strikes Elena with physical force, his unconscious accuracy describing her situation with precision that would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous. She continues installing target equipment while fighting to maintain civilian demeanor that conceals the military bearing threatening to emerge under stress. Staff Sergeant Kim attempts to ease the tension building around Elena's position. "Colonel, maybe we should focus our energy on productive activities rather than security concerns that don't directly impact our training mission." Webb's response reveals how personal frustration has overwhelmed his professional judgment. "Kim, everything impacts our training mission when we're failing to achieve strategic objectives, including civilian contractors who waste time and resources that should be dedicated to capability development." Elena completes the target installation and begins gathering tools with movements that maintain professional efficiency while avoiding any behavior that might further inflame Webb's antagonism. Her experience with volatile command personalities suggests that retreat represents the safest course when authority figures seek confrontation as emotional release. Webb's next words stop Elena's withdrawal like a physical barrier. "Wait right there. I want to know exactly what a civilian maintenance worker thinks about precision shooting at extreme distances. Maybe you have insights that our elite marksmen are missing." The challenge carries obvious sarcasm designed to humiliate Elena while providing Webb with audience entertainment at her expense. His instructors shift uncomfortably, recognizing the unprofessional direction of their commander's behavior but reluctant to directly challenge his authority during a volatile moment. Elena's response emerges carefully neutral, designed to avoid engagement while maintaining respectful acknowledgement of Webb's authority. "Sir, I don't have any knowledge about precision shooting. I'm just here to maintain equipment and keep the ranges functional." Webb's laugh carries no humor, only the bitter edge of someone whose expectations have been systematically frustrated. "Of course you don't. Just like our supposedly elite marksmen don't have knowledge about shooting at distances that actually matter for operational success." The comparison between Elena and trained military personnel represents the kind of casual disrespect that feeds Webb's sense of superiority while revealing his growing disconnection from professional standards. His instructors exchange glances that communicate shared concern about their commander's deteriorating judgment. Elena begins moving toward her equipment cart, seeking distance from Webb's increasingly unstable mood. But her movement triggers his attention like prey fleeing from a predator, activating pursuit instincts that transform irritation into focused aggression. Webb's voice follows Elena across the firing line with increasing volume and venom. "That's right, run away!" Just like everyone else when faced with challenges that require actual capability instead of paperwork and procedure. The public humiliation serves Webb's psychological need to demonstrate dominance while providing his audience with clear evidence of the authority structure that places military personnel above civilian contractors. Elena absorbs the verbal assault without response, understanding that engagement would only escalate the confrontation. Master Sergeant Thompson finally intervenes directly, recognizing that Webb's behavior has crossed professional boundaries. "Sir, perhaps we should return to capability development planning and leave maintenance personnel to complete their assigned tasks." Webb dismisses Thompson's suggestion with contempt that reveals how completely frustration has compromised his leadership judgment. "Thompson, I'll decide when we're finished here. This civilian represents everything wrong with our current approach to solving strategic problems." Elena reaches her equipment cart and begins loading tools with steady hands that betray no emotional response to Webb's verbal assault. Her training encompasses survival techniques that include enduring psychological pressure without compromising operational security, skills that prove valuable even in civilian contexts. Webb approaches Elena's position with predatory focus, sensing vulnerability that feeds his need to demonstrate authority through dominance over someone unable to defend themselves effectively. "You know what I think? I think civilians like you have never faced real challenges that test actual capability." The statement hangs in the air like a challenge that demands response, but Elena maintains professional silence while continuing to pack equipment. Her refusal to engage feeds Webb's frustration with the kind of stubborn resistance that suggests hidden strength rather than simple fear. Webb's final provocation carries the weight of someone seeking to shatter composure through calculated cruelty. "Maybe you should try shooting at some of those targets you've been installing. Show us what civilian precision looks like compared to military expertise." Elena's hands pause for a microsecond before resuming their methodical movement, the only visible sign that Webb's challenge has struck something deeper than civilian anxiety. Around them, his instructors recognize the cruel entertainment their commander is extracting from his confrontation with someone who can't fight back effectively. The moment balances on a knife edge between continued anonymity and explosive revelation. Elena possesses the capability to demonstrate exactly what Webb is mockingly requesting, but such demonstration would initiate investigation that could destroy the protective anonymity she's maintained for 4 years. Webb misinterprets Elena's silence as confirmation of civilian inadequacy rather than recognition of the professional discipline required to maintain protective cover under extreme provocation. His sense of superiority solidifies as he watches her continue packing equipment without verbal response to his challenge. The confrontation concludes with Webb's dismissive gesture that relegates Elena to the category of obstacles rather than assets. "Get your equipment and get off my range. We have real work to do here, and civilians just get in the way of military effectiveness." Elena completes her equipment loading and departs the firing line with movements that maintain professional dignity despite the public humiliation she's endured. Behind her, Webb returns to capability discussions with his instructors, unaware that his verbal assault has brought him closer to the solution he seeks than any personnel file review could achieve. The seeds of revelation have been planted through Webb's unconscious accuracy in describing Elena's hidden nature. His challenge regarding civilian precision shooting represents exactly the kind of demonstration that could resolve his strategic dilemma, but the price of such revelation exceeds what Elena can rationally choose to pay. The stage is set for the collision between hidden capability and demonstrated need, between protective anonymity and professional obligation. Webb's search for exceptional marksmen will soon intersect with Elena's determination to remain invisible, and the outcome will determine whether strategic requirements or personal security proves more powerful in shaping their shared future. The revelation comes through encrypted channels at dawn on Friday morning. General Anderson's convoy arrives unannounced, black vehicles cutting through the early morning mist like shadows carrying judgment. Elena watches from the maintenance building as military police establish security perimeters, her trained eyes recognizing the movement patterns of close protection details that accompany high-value targets in hostile territory. Anderson emerges from the lead vehicle with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to reshaping reality through sheer force of will. Her aide carries a sealed briefcase that Elena recognizes as containing materials classified beyond routine facility access. The general's presence transforms Fort Braxton's atmosphere from training facility to operational command center, urgency replacing routine as officers scramble to accommodate unexpected inspection. Webb greets Anderson at the facility entrance, his uniform displaying the pressed perfection of someone who spent sleepless hours preparing for evaluation. Behind him, senior instructors form a reception line that demonstrates military courtesy while barely concealing their anxiety about the general's unscheduled arrival. Elena positions herself near a window where she can observe the proceedings while maintaining the invisible presence that has protected her identity. Anderson's first words cut through ceremonial pleasantries with surgical precision. "Webb, I need to see immediate progress on extreme distance capability development. Intelligence reports suggest operational requirements may accelerate beyond our planned timeline." The acceleration creates pressure that transforms Webb's already challenging assignment into crisis management requiring immediate solutions rather than methodical development. Elena recognizes the pattern of compressed timelines that characterize emergency capability requirements, situations where conventional approaches prove inadequate, and success demands unconventional methods. Webb's briefing reveals the extent of his failure to identify exceptional marksmen through systematic personnel review. "General, we've screened candidates from 17 installations without finding individuals who demonstrate the baseline capabilities necessary for 3,000-meter precision shooting." Anderson's response carries the weight of someone whose strategic patience has reached its limit. "Webb, I'm not interested in systematic screening methods that produce negative results. I need marksmen who can achieve what others consider impossible, and I need them identified within the next 72 hours. The impossible timeline forces Webb to confront the fundamental limitations of his approach while providing no alternative methodology for achieving Anderson's objectives. Lena observes his growing desperation with professional sympathy, mixed with personal concern about the systematic search that threatens her anonymity. Anderson introduces classified intelligence that elevates the strategic importance of enhanced precision shooting capabilities. Webb, recent intercepts indicate enemy commanders positioning themselves at distances they believe place them beyond our operational reach. They're using our doctrinal limitations as defensive strategy. The intelligence transforms the theoretical shooting scenario into immediate operational necessity, enemy adaptation that exploits perceived American weaknesses to achieve tactical advantage. Elena's buried expertise automatically processes the strategic implications, understanding that enemy confidence in their defensive positioning creates opportunities for marksmen capable of extreme distance precision. Webb accepts the enhanced intelligence while privately questioning whether the capabilities Anderson demands actually exist within human possibility. "General, if such marksmen exist within our military structure, our screening methods should have identified them. The absence of positive results suggests we may be seeking capabilities that exceed human limitations." Anderson dismisses Webb's assessment with the confidence of someone who's witnessed impossible achievements throughout her operational career. "Webb, exceptional capabilities often hide in unexpected places. Sometimes the answer stands right in front of us, and we're too focused on conventional thinking to recognize it." Elena's breathing shifts as Anderson's words echo Webb's earlier statement about obvious solutions hiding in plain sight. The convergence of similar observations from different sources creates investigative pressure that threatens to expose her protective anonymity through channels she hasn't fully anticipated. The general's aide opens the classified briefcase, revealing photographs and technical specifications that transform theoretical discussions into concrete operational planning. Elena glimpses fragments of the materials from her concealed position, recognizing enemy defensive installations that match scenarios from her hidden operational experience. Anderson spreads reconnaissance photographs across Webb's conference table with movements that demonstrate familiarity with intelligence analysis under pressure. These positions represent exactly the kind of targets we discussed in theoretical terms. The enemy believes distance provides absolute protection from American precision shooting. Webb studies the photographs with growing understanding of the operational context underlying Anderson's urgency. Enemy commanders occupying positions at ranges that exceed conventional American capabilities represent strategic vulnerabilities that demand immediate response through enhanced precision shooting methods. Elena's suppressed expertise automatically evaluates the target installations visible in Anderson's photographs, identifying weaknesses in enemy defensive positioning that could be exploited through proper shot placement at extreme distances. Her experience encompasses successful engagements against similar targets, but acknowledging that knowledge would initiate investigation that could destroy her protective anonymity. Anderson's next revelation increases the strategic stakes beyond individual mission success. Webb intelligence analysts believe these defensive positions represent testing for broader enemy strategy. If they prove effective, we can expect similar installations across multiple operational theaters. The strategic proliferation transforms Elena's assessment from isolated operational requirement to systematic capability gap that could influence American military effectiveness across global deployments. Her hidden expertise represents potential solution to problems that extend far beyond Fort Braxton's training mission. Webb processes the strategic implications while struggling with practical limitations that prevent immediate capability development. General understanding the broader context helps explain the urgency but doesn't solve the fundamental problem of identifying marksmen capable of extreme distance precision shooting. Anderson's response reveals information that has been classified beyond Webb's current access level. Webb, exceptional marksmen don't always appear in personnel databases under obvious categories. Sometimes they hide their capabilities for reasons related to operational security or personal protection. Elena's internal alarm systems activate as Anderson's statement approaches dangerous territory that could expose protective anonymity through investigative methods she hasn't anticipated. The general's knowledge suggests intelligent sources that extend beyond routine personnel screening. Anderson continues with classified information that reshapes Webb's understanding of the search parameters. We have reason to believe such capabilities might exist within personnel currently assigned to non-combat roles, individuals whose true expertise remains concealed for security reasons. The revelation transforms Webb's systematic search from routine personnel review to counterintelligence investigation designed to identify hidden capabilities within his own facility. Elena recognizes the methodological shift as direct threat to the protective cover that has shielded her identity for 4 years. Webb's response demonstrates his growing comprehension of the investigation's complexity. General, if we're looking for concealed capabilities within current personnel, we'll need access to classified databases that may reveal information about deep cover assets. Anderson authorizes expanded investigation with the bureaucratic authority necessary to overcome classification barriers that normally prevent such comprehensive personnel review. Webb, you have access to whatever database is necessary to identify exceptional marksmen, regardless of their current assignment or cover status. Elena's situation transforms from manageable risk to immediate crisis, as Anderson's authorization provides Webb with investigative tools capable of exposing her true identity through multiple channels. Her protective anonymity faces systematic assault from the very intelligence apparatus that originally created her cover identity. Anderson's aid produces additional classified materials that provide Webb with investigative methodologies designed to identify concealed military capabilities within civilian populations. Elena recognizes the techniques from her intelligence training, understanding that systematic application of these methods will inevitably expose her hidden background. Webb accepts the enhanced investigative authority while privately questioning the wisdom of exposing deep cover assets for capability development purposes. General, investigating concealed military personnel could compromise operational security for individuals whose protection represents significant intelligence investment. Anderson weighs operational security concerns against strategic necessity with the calculating assessment of someone who's made similar decisions throughout her career. Webb, strategic requirements justify calculated risks to individual operational security. Find me marksmen capable of extreme distance precision, regardless of their current status. Elena observes the planning session with growing certainty that her protective anonymity will not survive the systematic investigation Anderson has authorized. Her 4-year refuge as civilian maintenance worker, approaches its inevitable conclusion through strategic necessities that override individual security considerations. Anderson concludes the briefing with timeline pressure that eliminates any possibility of gradual investigation or careful consideration of individual security concerns. Webb, I need preliminary identification of exceptional marksmen within 48 hours. Operational requirements don't accommodate extended investigation periods. Webb accepts the impossible timeline while understanding that failure represents career termination for someone who's staked his reputation on achieving strategic objectives. Elena recognizes his desperation as the driving force that will make him relentless in pursuing any lead that might produce the capabilities Anderson demands. The general's departure leaves Webb with enhanced authority and compressed timeline that will force him to investigate every possible source of exceptional marksmanship within his facility. Elena's protective anonymity faces the most serious threat since she assumed her civilian identity 4 years ago. Elena returns to her maintenance duties with the knowledge that her hidden identity will soon face systematic exposure through investigative methods designed specifically to identify concealed military capabilities. The collision between protective anonymity and strategic necessity approaches with mathematical inevitability, forcing her to choose between personal security and professional obligation. Webb's immediate implementation of Anderson's directives begins with comprehensive review of all facility personnel, including civilian contractors whose background investigations may have overlooked relevant military experience. Elena's carefully constructed cover identity will undergo scrutiny designed to expose exactly the kind of concealed capabilities she possesses. The final phase of Elena's anonymous existence begins as Webb mobilizes investigative resources that will systematically examine every individual associated with Fort Braxton's operations. Her 4-year refuge approaches its conclusion through strategic necessities that place national security requirements above individual protection concerns. Elena faces the choice that has haunted her since assuming civilian identity: revelation of capabilities that could save American lives versus protection of anonymity that keeps her family safe from enemies who believe she died in a Syrian desert. The decision approaches with the inexorable force of operational necessity, and some choices cannot be delayed indefinitely when strategic requirements demand immediate action. The moment of truth arrives at 0800 hours Monday morning when Webb's investigation finally penetrates the layers of bureaucratic protection surrounding Elena's fabricated identity. Senior Master Sergeant Patricia Williams enters the maintenance office with the purposeful stride of someone carrying explosive intelligence, her weathered face displaying the grim satisfaction of a hunter who's finally cornered elusive prey. Williams approaches Elena's workstation, where she's cataloging inventory with the mechanical precision that has characterized her civilian routine for 4 years. "Elena Martinez," Williams announces, her voice carrying the weight of classified discoveries that will reshape everything they thought they knew about facility personnel. Or should I say Captain Rebecca Stone, formerly of the 2nd Battalion 75th Ranger Regiment. Elena's hands freeze on the inventory clipboard as her carefully constructed world collapses in a single sentence. 4 years of protective anonymity evaporate like morning mist under the harsh spotlight of military intelligence investigation. Her breathing remains controlled through years of combat conditioning, but her eyes carry the resignation of someone who's always known this moment would eventually arrive. Williams continues her revelation with the methodical precision of someone delivering classified briefing materials. Decorated veteran of Operation Crimson Dawn in Syria, holder of the Distinguished Service Cross, and according to classified after-action reports, the finest long-distance marksman in American military history. The truth hangs in the maintenance office air like cordite after gunfire, transforming Elena's mundane workplace into a stage for strategic revelation. Williams produces a classified folder containing Elena's real service record, documents that paint a picture of operational excellence that exceeds even Webb's highest expectations for the exceptional marksman he's been seeking. Elena's response comes quietly, carrying the weight of someone who spent years preparing for this moment while hoping it would never arrive. "Sergeant Williams, that person died in a Syrian desert 4 years ago. I'm just a maintenance worker trying to live a quiet life." Williams dismisses Elena's denial with the confidence of someone who's verified intelligence through multiple classified sources. "Captain, your family was relocated under federal protection after Syrian intelligence networks targeted them for retaliation. The only way to keep them safe was complete identity erasure, including your own supposed death in enemy territory." The classified context explains Elena's motivation for abandoning military identity that represented everything she'd worked to achieve throughout her adult life. Her sacrifice of recognition and career advancement to protect family members creates moral complexity that extends beyond simple duty obligations. Elena's cover story unravels completely as Williams reveals additional classified information that demonstrates the comprehensive nature of the intelligence investigation. Captain, your escape from Syrian captivity and subsequent extraction involved capabilities that redefined what military planners considered possible for individual operators under extreme conditions. Williams spreads classified after-action reports across Elena's workstation, documents that detail operational achievements so extraordinary they were classified beyond routine military access. Elena recognizes her own mission summaries, technical analyses of engagements that pushed the boundaries of human capability under combat conditions. The most significant document reveals Elena's record-setting sniper engagement during Operation Crimson Dawn, a shot taken at 3,247 meters through environmental conditions that challenged computer modeling capabilities. The engagement eliminated a high-value target whose removal shifted strategic balance in an entire operational theater. Elena's reluctant acknowledgement of her true identity comes through body language rather than verbal admission. Her posture shifts from civilian maintenance worker to military bearing that reflects years of combat leadership, transformation so complete that Williams recognizes the return of Captain Rebecca Stone despite 4 years of careful concealment. Williams delivers Webb's official request with the gravity appropriate to strategic necessities that override individual security concerns. Captain, Colonel Webb requires your immediate consultation on precision shooting techniques that could address current operational requirements. Your expertise represents the solution to strategic challenges that threaten American military effectiveness. Elena's internal war between personal security and professional obligation reaches its climactic moment as Webb's requirements force her to choose between continued anonymity and service to capabilities that could save American lives. The mathematical certainty of exposure eliminates the luxury of maintaining protective distance from military responsibilities. Webb's arrival in the maintenance office creates a tableau of recognition that transforms theoretical discussions into personal revelation. His expression shifts from expectation to awe as he processes the reality that the exceptional marksman he's been seeking has been working under his direct supervision for months. Webb's voice carries reverence that Elena hasn't heard directed toward her since assuming civilian identity. Captain Stone, I've been reading your classified service record. Your operational achievements represent capabilities that exceed our highest theoretical projections for human marksmanship. Elena meets Webb's gaze with the steady composure of someone who's accepted the inevitability of revelation while understanding its consequences for her carefully protected family. Colonel, that service record belongs to someone who made different choices about the relationship between duty and personal cost. Webb's request comes with the urgency of someone facing impossible strategic requirements, with compressed timelines that don't accommodate gradual capability development. Captain, I need your expertise to train marksmen capable of extreme distance precision shooting. Current operational requirements demand capabilities that exist nowhere in our training doctrine. Elena's response reveals the depth of knowledge she possesses regarding the tactical scenarios Webb has been struggling to address through conventional methods. Colonel, the capabilities you're describing develop through operational necessity rather than classroom instruction. They require psychological conditioning that most marksmen never acquire through peacetime training. Webb absorbs Elena's assessment while recognizing that her expertise represents the breakthrough his strategic planning has desperately needed. Captain, regardless of training methodology, we need to develop these capabilities immediately. Will you help us achieve what others consider impossible? Elena's decision crystallizes through understanding that her hidden knowledge could prevent American casualties in operations that will proceed regardless of her participation. The choice between personal security and professional obligation resolves through recognition that some capabilities carry moral obligations beyond individual preferences. Elena's acceptance comes with conditions that reflect her understanding of the risks she's assuming through renewed military involvement. Colonel, I'll provide consultation on extreme distance shooting techniques, but I maintain civilian status and my family's protection remains absolute priority. Webb accepts Elena's conditions immediately, understanding that her expertise under any circumstances represents strategic victory beyond his highest expectations. The negotiation balances Elena's security requirements against operational necessities that demand immediate capability development. Elena's transformation from maintenance worker to tactical consultant begins with assessment of Fort Braxton's current training methodologies and identification of modifications necessary to develop extreme-distance precision shooting capabilities. Her expertise reveals fundamental limitations in conventional approaches that have prevented breakthrough performance. The first training session demonstrates Elena's capabilities in ways that redefine Webb's understanding of human marksmanship potential. She approaches the firing line with movements that display muscle memory refined through thousands of combat engagements, settling behind the rifle with familiarity that speaks of professional intimacy with precision shooting equipment. Elena's initial shots at maximum range targets create groups that exceed the facility's measurement capabilities, precision that validates every classified report in her service record. The assembled instructors observe in silence as Elena demonstrates techniques that exist outside their understanding of ballistic science. Webb's reaction combines professional admiration with strategic satisfaction as he witnesses capabilities that will revolutionize American precision shooting doctrine. "Captain, your performance confirms intelligence reports that seemed too extraordinary to believe. How do we transfer these capabilities to other marksmen?" Elena's instruction methodology reveals teaching techniques that address psychological barriers, preventing conventional marksmen from achieving extreme distance precision. Her approach encompasses environmental reading skills that develop intuitive understanding of ballistic factors beyond mathematical calculation. Private Jackson becomes Elena's first student in techniques that challenge everything he's learned about precision shooting limitations. Under her guidance, his maximum effective range extends beyond conventional doctrine through methods that integrate human intuition with technical precision. Elena's impact on Fort Braxton's training mission becomes evident as marksmen achieve performance levels that seemed impossible under conventional instruction. Her teaching methods produce rapid improvement in capabilities that previous training had suggested required years to develop. The strategic implications of Elena's instruction extend beyond individual facility improvement to systematic enhancement of American precision shooting capabilities across multiple operational theaters. Her techniques represent methodology that could address capability gaps identified in Anderson's strategic assessment. Elena's family protection requirements receive renewed attention as her visibility within military circles increases through her consulting role. Intelligence services implement enhanced security measures that acknowledge the continuing threat from enemies who believe she died in Syrian territory. Webb's report to General Anderson highlights Elena's capabilities while emphasizing the strategic value of her instruction in developing enhanced precision shooting capabilities throughout American military forces. The success validates Anderson's conviction that exceptional marksmen often hide in unexpected places. Elena's new role balances her desire for anonymity with recognition that her expertise carries moral obligations to prevent casualties that could result from inadequate precision shooting capabilities. She finds purpose in teaching others to survive challenges she's overcome through operational experience. The facility's transformation under Elena's influence creates culture change that extends beyond technical improvements to fundamental shifts in understanding about human potential under extreme conditions. Webb's leadership benefits from Elena's expertise while acknowledging the personal costs she's accepted through renewed military involvement. Elena's story concludes with recognition that exceptional capabilities often develop through circumstances that demand survival beyond conventional limitations. Her journey from decorated veteran to anonymous civilian to reluctant instructor demonstrates the complexity of service obligations that extend beyond individual preferences. The broader implications of Elena's revelations suggest that American military capabilities may be enhanced by individuals whose expertise remains concealed for security reasons. Her example encourages systematic evaluation of personnel who might possess exceptional capabilities disguised by civilian occupations or non-combat assignments. Elena's legacy develops through marksmen whose enhanced capabilities will save American lives in operations she'll never witness directly. Her instruction creates ripple effects that extend her operational impact far beyond her personal service record, multiplying her effectiveness through others who carry her techniques into combat situations. The final assessment recognizes Elena's choice to balance personal security with professional obligation, finding middle ground between complete anonymity and full military engagement that allows her to contribute critical capabilities while maintaining family protection. Her example demonstrates that service sometimes requires sacrifice of recognition in favor of impact that benefits others without personal acknowledgement. Webb's strategic success in developing extreme-distance precision shooting capabilities validates Anderson's conviction that exceptional marksmen exist within military structure when properly identified and developed. Elena's expertise provides the foundation for systematic capability enhancement that addresses strategic requirements across multiple operational contexts. Elena's transformation from invisible maintenance worker to acknowledged expert represents a personal journey that illustrates the complexity of service obligations extending beyond individual preferences to encompass moral responsibilities that demand engagement despite personal cost. Her story demonstrates that exceptional capabilities carry obligations that transcend individual security concerns when strategic necessities demand their application for broader benefit. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.